Turning towards your frustrations as a leader is a superpower, and I want to share with you how this is so with an example from my business recently. Like many people, I was taught as a young child to not complain, to not make a fuss, and I also naturally as a person dislike conflict and I dislike uncomfortable situations. And so I'm often turning away from my frustrations, turning away from things that make me angry or irritated. And I have done this my whole life, believing that this is the virtuous and the right thing to do. And I've learned more recently that it's extremely counterproductive in my leadership. I had a weekend with other entrepreneurs and people were speaking to each other and giving each other advice. And I realized that other people could see and have insights into other people's lives with great depth about their blocks, their deeper issues, what was going on for them that I couldn't see. It was like a blindness. I need to pause and take a step back and wonder what was going on here. And were these things related? My aversion of conflict, my aversion of frustrations, and not having the insight into what other people are struggling with. So this became extremely clear to me with a recent difficult client situation in my business. We had worked for the client for 5 months, had delivered on everything that had been contracted, and the client still complained and wanted a refund. In a court of law, if the agreement was analysed, including our calls where we reviewed the agreement and made changes at different milestones, contractually we were in the right. We had done everything that was asked and we were due the invoice. And the client's continual complaints and requests for a refund and saying that they received nothing made me deeply, deeply angry and quite distressed about the situation. And on this weekend with other entrepreneurs, I talked about this scenario with a friend and they were able to help me see it in a different way. They challenged me to see what had I learned from the situation. And I realized that I had learned our deep value, that we were doing a really good job, that we went over and above expectations, and that in some situations we just couldn't help a client. And in these situations, we would give extra work and extra services to compensate for the fact that we couldn't help them. It wasn't our fault. There were other market forces at play. My friend challenged me and said, "Can you thank the situation instead of being angry about the situation?" And it was such a profound insight for me because I realized that this client and their complaints had really pushed me to deeply evaluate that we were doing a good job, that we had gone over and above, and that we were an agency of quality. In fact, instead of disputing the refund or trying to fight the client to justify a sense of my own identity, I was happily able to give a refund to satisfy the client, not because they were right and we'd done something wrong, but because we were right and an agency of high quality that were able to, out of our generosity, give a refund. What was becoming clear to me is that because I'm a person that doesn't face frustrations, what I've inadvertently done is to numb myself from really listening to other situations. That there were red flags with this client from very early days, a few elements that would have made them unqualified despite what they told us, and a few behavior markers throughout the engagement that would have emphasized that they were deeply unqualified. But I determinedly believed that this person knew what they were talking about and that they signed an agreement and made continual agreements with us and that we were on the same page. What I wasn't doing was listening deeply to that person's problems and that person's blocks. And it was actually me knowing my deep, deep value that enabled me to listen and really understand this person's blocks and deficiencies. I realized that a life of not complaining, not turning towards frustration out of a sense of virtue and discomfort with conflict, I was actually numbing myself and inadvertently blinding myself to other people's deficiencies. I would often see them as very capable, and not be able to really see with insight. This catalyzed an exercise which I would encourage every leader to do, and it's a life review. I would recommend that you take a piece of paper or a whiteboard, draw a line down the middle, and on the left-hand side, write down all of your frustrations. Analyze regrets, analyze past hurts, analyze where people have let you down and have hurt you. And then on the right-hand side, note down equally what that hurt meant. For example, if someone is judgmental of you, probably it means that you require patience. If someone is absent emotionally from you, you desire connectivity. If someone was inconsistent with you and let you down, you desire consistency and people to honor their word. And what I discovered was a whole list of my values, a whole list of ways I work, the way I see the world, the way I turn up for people where they haven't turned up for me. And I actually saw this beautiful list of my qualities and my operating system. And then when I analyze the business that I've built, I actually see my operating system at work. I seek deep connection, empathy. A lot of things that have hurt me are around lack of structure, lack of leadership, lack of connectivity, lack of empathy. And my business is all about helping entrepreneurs connect with their clients, say the right thing, don't say the wrong thing. It's about helping experts explain their genius and connect with the right people and share their knowledge. So really, by looking at my frustration, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about how I show up in the world and what I need. I also learned about my genius, what I bring to a situation, how I can help other people. Also, when I look back at this negative client situation where we gave a refund, I realized my deep value in this situation. But in this situation, I was working with a wildly unqualified client who was just so far down the ladder, he couldn't take that knowledge, implement it in his business. He just ended up complaining constantly that what he was getting wasn't enough. Instead of getting angry with him about his lack of assessment of our ability, my posture is now to thank the situation for showing me that I shouldn't be working with wildly unqualified people. In fact, instead of lowering myself to the market, I should be targeting the highest level of the market that I can. And in fact, the market will rise to me. There will be entrepreneurs and businesses that need to know how to connect, say the right thing, not say the wrong thing, who need my deep insight and my ability to help them connect and empathize with their client and pay me properly for my services and my time. So this is why I would urge you as a leader and as an entrepreneur to turn and face your frustrations and do a life review. Use it to learn about your deep operating system and your values and how you show up in the world. And your value expands, the outside conflict situations tend to shrink almost to nothing. They become small things that you can handle with your generosity and with yourself. And instead of shrinking yourself to the market to try and serve people who are ungrateful and are just going to complain, not because of your value, but because where they're at in their life and their business, raise your value up to the highest place where your value can be appreciated and let the market rise to you and pay you the highest amount just for doing what you're good at, turning up, using your intuition, using your operating systems to charge the most for the genius that you bring to the world. So if you're an entrepreneur, I recommend that you turn and look at your frustrations and you'll find some great gems in there.